everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be a foundation and concealer roundup. I have a lot of just different complexion products that I've done first impressions on, and now I'm back to just give you my overall thoughts now that I've tested these a little bit more, try to see how to make them work better if I didn't initially love it the first time around. I'm going to be ranking all of these and just giving my pros and cons, who I think that they're going to be best for. So if that all sounds good to you, if you like ranking videos, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I would love it if you stuck around. But with all that, let's just get started talking about these products. All right, so I am going to rank these separately. I'm going to do foundations in one ranking and concealers in another. Didn't make sense to make two videos because I don't have too many concealers, and I just wanted to get these out of my speed review drawer. If I'm just being honest, it was starting to get a little bit full, and I wanted to just check back in, let you guys know all of my thoughts on them. Now, just to really breeze over what I prefer out of a complexion product, I want something that's long wearing, that feels natural on the skin. I do prefer a light to medium coverage, but I'm happy with all coverages as long as it's long wearing and natural and lightweight on the skin. So those are kind of my preferences. I do prefer more of a matte to glowy. I want it to look natural, but I really don't like products that are just overly glowy, that make you look sweaty. That's not my vibe. I do have normal leaning dry skin, I would say, mostly just dehydrated because I don't drink enough water. I will get a little bit oily in my T-zone, but for the most part, I think I have pretty just average normal skin. So I'm going to put timestamps down below in case you're only interested in the concealer or the foundation part. I think we're going to start with concealers because I only have 4 and it'll be a little bit quicker. So there's been a lot of concealers releasing. It seems like it's slowed down a little bit, thank goodness, because I have way too many concealers now after testing so many. Just a side note, the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Concealer did come out, and I do plan on picking that up and doing a wear test. I'm trying to be a little bit more picky on my purchases, but that is one that I really want to try. So stay on the lookout for that wear test. But now let's go over the concealers I have to rank. Like I said, I only have 4, so this will be pretty quick here. But the first one that I have is not a new one. It's one that I just tried in like a full face, I think a Get Ready With Me, that I wanted to try because it had kind of been on my wish list. It is the Covergirl Simply Ageless Triple Action Concealer. I have the shade Ivory. I love the Simply Ageless line. This is the worst product from the Simply Ageless collection that I've tried. First of all, the applicator makes no sense. It's just plastic. So let me just show you. I'm going to dip this in once, and here's what comes off. That. Like, nothing comes off of this applicator because it's just this weird plastic. I know they were trying to, what is that? I know they were trying to kind of mimic the metal tip cooling applicator, but it's just a miss. You have to dip this in like 5 times per eye. After that, like, the formula's okay. It's kind of your average run-of-the-mill just drugstore. I would say it's a little bit more hydrating rather than matte. It does kind of fall into the Simply Ageless line. I see why they put it in that line, but I can't get over the applicator and how much of a pain in the ass it is to use this and base just solely on that. Like, the formula is not outstanding enough to counteract the packaging, which is why I'm putting it in number 4. Number 3, after this, I actually quite like all of these. I rank them based on preference, but I would recommend all of these just depending on what you're looking for. So number 3 is going to go to the Guerlain Terracotta Concealer, and all the videos I will have linked down in the description box if you want to see my dedicated video on it. I have the shade 1N in this concealer. Very nice luxury packaging. one of the most luxury like packaging components from a concealer in a long time. Here's kind of what this looks like. Now, the reason why this one's number 3 and not a little bit higher is because they do advertise this as a hydrating kind of soft concealer, and to me this is more matte than just hydrating. It is self-setting. I even said in my review that it very much reminds me of the Gucci concealer, and I stick to that. My opinions didn't change. It is just one that I would not powder, or it's going to look too dry and matte. On its own, it's fine. It's self-setting. It looks okay. It's not too creasy. If you have very just mature under eyes or dry under eyes, this might not be the one for you. But I do think that this one goes with the foundation, and the foundation I think was a little bit polarizing for people. I personally really enjoy that foundation, but if you didn't, or that foundation just doesn't sound like the type of foundation you would like, I don't think this would be for you. This is just for someone who has like younger under eyes, doesn't suffer from creasing, wants some good coverage, not a full coverage, but a good medium buildable coverage that you don't want to set. Like, this is the one for you. And then number 2 goes to the Estee Lauder Futurist Soft Touch Brightening Skin Sealer. This is supposed to have skincare benefits in it. It's supposed to just be one with the skin. I have the shade 1N again, but a lot lighter. And the applicator is very interesting, kind of different. Very much, I think it's supposed to mimic like a finger, and I do kind of see that. Here it is swatched out. And this one is the one that I would recommend if you want a hydrating concealer. If you like hydrating concealers, or you like to set it, this is the one that I would recommend. Now, it does have pretty good coverage. I would say this is much fuller coverage than the Guerlain for sure. Probably actually out of all the ones I'm talking about today, this is the most full coverage. However, even though it's full coverage, it is very just lightweight and really melts into the under eyes. I find it to be kind of just like one with the skin. It's a very nice concealer, actually. I wish I'd gotten a shade up. It's a little bit light for me at this point, but that's okay. I can still probably make it work, and especially in the winter time. This just, it does. It feels like an eye cream going on, but it gives you that coverage. I think out of all of them, like, most people will probably like this concealer, but for me, you know, obviously I'm ranking it number 2 because I just have my preferences. I have nothing bad to say about this. I think that the Futurist line from Estee Lauder, I also have the foundation to talk about today. I reviewed both of those together. I think it was a really nice launch, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. I tend to really enjoy Estee Lauder complexion products. I also really like the Double Wear Concealer that they came out with. I've gone through like a full tube of that, so I wasn't surprised that I liked this. This is just going to be a lot more hydrating than the Double Wear, and that's like its main just benefit, I would say, is how hydrating it feels. It will, you know, kind of have like, I don't know if you can see it, like that reflecting quality. So personally, I don't love that, and I set it with powder, but if you do like that, you'll really like this concealer. And then number 1 is going to go to the YSL All Hours Concealer. I have the shade LN1. It's so weird how like companies like look at this. Weird. I like this concealer. They compare this to it has similar claims. They don't compare it. I compared it to the Huda Beauty Faux Filter, which that one is my favorite full coverage. Even though this claims to be full coverage, I don't find it to be full coverage. I think the Estee Lauder has more coverage than the YSL, but it has decent coverage. It has a medium coverage. It is like a soft, luminous finish, a little bit more on the matte side, but lightweight, not overly matte. You can set this. If you have dry under eyes, but you want a matte finish, then this one will work really well for you, whereas like the Guerlain will not. So that's why I'm putting this at number 1. I also really just enjoy the applicator. I think it was really smart. They have like this triangle thing, and you can kind of, you're supposed to be able to do different ways. So you can pinpoint it, you can do it normal like I just did, or you can put it on its angle and use it for like highlighting your nose or something like that. So I think that it was really smart of them. Now, I did also video just wearing this with the foundation, and the foundation wasn't really my favorite. The concealer is nice though. This is one where I don't understand the marketing of putting this under the All Hours line. The Guerlain I do, because I think the terracotta goes with the foundation. This I just find so much different than the foundation. That's just like a side note, but it always is interesting to me when companies will kind of just put things under the same umbrella because they sell well. The All Hours is YSL's probably most well-known line in their complexion brand, so I see why they did it, but I wouldn't put this in the All Hours category. It is like somewhat long wearing, but nothing to justify that. It still is my number 1. I'm wearing it today. Of course, all the makeup that I'm wearing will be listed down in the description box. It's easy to use. They do say, in my wear test, I said that they recommend using a finger or a brush. I'm able to use a sponge, and I actually prefer it that way. Sponge is my preferred method because it adds just like a little bit more hydration back into the concealer for me and just blends it out a little bit easier. With the Guerlain, definitely a brush because of how self-setting it is, and you'll get the most coverage that way. But I did at least want to note that this was one they say don't use a sponge, and I was able to, and I much more prefer it that way. So those are all the concealers. Now let's move on to the 6 foundations that I have here to go over and rank with you. So if you're not new to my channel, you probably know which one I'm going to talk about. Not only is this probably the worst foundation I've tried this year, it's probably the worst foundation I've tried. Like, it's like top 3 worst foundations, honestly. I'm talking about the Clinique Moisture Surge. This is the Sheertint Hydrator Broad Spectrum SPF 25. This is supposed to kind of be like a tinted moisturizer slash foundation hybrid. I have the shade Universal Light Medium. This just has no staying power. It wears away. It gets, not only like does it not last, it gets super oily and greasy even after powdering it. It didn't matter what primer I used. Like, this type of product really isn't meant to go with a lot of different makeup products. Like, it's not really meant to do a full face. It really is meant to kind of be, like I said, a tinted moisturizer. So because of that, like, nothing really made this work. It just goes on like super, super shiny, and then it doesn't sink into the skin. Like I said, it breaks apart, it gets shiny, it gets super oily, it like melts off your face within a couple of hours. I just don't even recommend this at all. This is also quite pricey. It's like $44, $50. Even if this was $10, I still wouldn't recommend it. I can't make this work for me at all. It doesn't matter what I do, it just doesn't work. And quite honestly, I would declutter it. I just have quite a few Clinique foundations I still want to do first impression wear tests on. And then after I kind of do a roundup, just comparing all the Clinique foundations, I will 100% be getting rid of this because I won't be wearing it. I can't make it work, and it's not worth the hassle. Number 5 is a little bit sad. As I was putting these foundations up against each other, I kind of thought this was going to be not ranked number 1, but ranked like decently high, like at least in the top 3rd. But in comparison to some of the rest of these, like, it falls where it falls. Number 5 is going to go to the Lisa Eldridge. This is the Seamless Skin Enhancing Tint. I have the shade T4. The shades are odd. I feel like I should have gotten like T5 or T6 even, which the people I saw getting T6 are much, much darker than me. So I don't know. I'm not really getting the shades all the way. There's 18 shades, I think. This retails for about $50. This is supposed to only provide really a hint of coverage. I mean, it is an enhancing tint, like she says. It's not a skin tint. Like, this really is supposed to just give the tiniest amount of something. If I had to guess, like probably very similar to the Glossier, whatever foundation that was that people said is basically just water. I never tried that foundation, but this is what I'm imagining it's the most similar to. It's nice. It's not bad. I will wear it and I will use it, just not as much as my preferences would like in a product. It's just a little too much of nothing. I can see the place that this has, absolutely. Like, for example, I actually used this on my mom when we did like a photo shoot. We did family photos. My mom never wears makeup, like her idea of wearing makeup is wearing mascara, which is totally fine, but she is outside a lot. Like she kind of just gets like a lot of redness from being out in the sun. So I used this on her to just kind of tone down the redness, but still make her look like herself. I didn't want her to like feel uncomfortable or not look like herself in the photos, because then it just looks fake, you know? So I used this on her. That worked really well. I think that she still felt like herself, but it gave her a little bit more confidence for the photos. So I definitely like see the place for this, and I will use it, but not as much as my other foundations. You know, it wears okay. It does get pretty shiny. You will have to touch it up if you don't like getting oily or you get oily in your T-zone. You'll absolutely just need to blot this down, but it's okay. It has its place, and that's really the most positive thing I can say about it. The number 4 spot I thought was going to rank lower, actually. It is going to go to the Revlon Illuminance Skin Caring Foundation. I have the shade 201. My first impression wear test on this was not great. I had it break apart a lot, and it was just looking really patchy, like the wear down was not natural. So I tried it out with a mattifying primer, and that 100% did the trick. I think that just maybe when I used it, I applied a little bit too much on my chin. I said that in my video, and I maybe used a little bit too much powder. So you do have to be a little bit careful with this product. You do need to just make sure you're really blending it out. But for my preferences, I'm quite surprised at how much I enjoyed this. It is supposed to be like a more illuminating primer. It's the Luminance. So it's not too luminous is what I'm trying to say. It's not too radiant. It has just enough for someone who doesn't love that kind of finish. It has like that healthy glow, but as long as you powder sparingly, your oils won't come through. It does last a good amount of time. It doesn't break down. That's really all I can ask for. And my only tip with this is to just make sure you're using a mattifying primer all over your face, not just for like enlarged pores, but actually like a mattifying all over face primer. That is going to help a lot with this on just making sure that like your oils don't break it apart. This is one though, that this is the reason why I come back to do these videos, because if I just went off of my first impression, like I would not recommend this foundation, but I do think that a lot of people would like it. If you have like semi-oily skin, you might be able to get away with this if you like a hydrating finish. If you have super oily skin, I think it'll just be too oily for you, but you could wear it if you have oily skin and get away with it, is what I'm trying to say, without it looking too just sweaty. And like, there's a difference between being glowy and just looking like you're wet. And I hope that I'm making sense. This gives you that like healthy glow without being metallic and shiny, without being wet looking. It just gives like a nice subtle hint of radiance, and I like it for that. I don't think it's one that I'll go back to very often. I have other favorites. It definitely is not a favorite, but it's one it's good, it's decent, and I'm glad that I was able to figure out a way to make it work. The top three though, I love all of these. The third place goes to the Estee Lauder Futurist Skin Tint Serum. This has botanical oil infusion. This is a dropper style, which I don't love. I have the shade 2N1, right? Yeah, 2N1 is usually my shade in Estee Lauder. It has the dropper. This, I put in number 3 because I like the other 2 better, obviously, but also this is gonna have the most amount of people, even over the Revlon, the Lisa. This is gonna have the most amount of people that I think you have to like a product like this to like it. It is an oil foundation. So if you didn't like the Kosas face oil, you won't like this. Despite this being an oil foundation though, it melts into the skin beautifully. It still lasts a long time. That is my main thing with a foundation. I just want it to last and not break apart. Even if it wasn't long lasting and it just wore down naturally, I'm fine with that. This one just wears really nice and just feels really comfortable on the skin. You get a decent amount of coverage. Like, it's not a skin tint. It is definitely more of a foundation, even though they call it a skin tint serum. It's serum-like in the consistency, but I wouldn't still classify this as a skin tint. To me, this is a light coverage, and I consider a skin tint more sheer. Highly, highly recommend this one if you like an oil-based foundation. I think it's really nice, and it makes your skin feel really healthy. Like, it makes your skin feel hydrated. So if you have dry skin, like, you might really enjoy that factor. Obviously, because it is an oil foundation, oily skin people might not enjoy that as much because the oils might kind of clash. If you have tried this foundation with oily skin, I'd love to know your thoughts. Maybe with like just an oil controlling primer, it might do okay. But for me, I was able to use any kind of primer with this as long as it wasn't silicone. And it looked really nice on. It looked really nice, light, natural. These two paired together actually looked really lovely. Even though this is more of a full coverage concealer, they meshed really well. It didn't look awkward or anything like that, which is why I would say this is not sheer. But I do really like this, and I think this is one that people either loved or hated because not everyone loves an oil-infused foundation. Now, number 1 and number 2 were pretty neck and neck. The only thing that just made number one is because that's the one I reached for more, but this one is really, really nice, and I definitely want to explore this brand more. So number 2 goes to the Ilia. This is the Skin Rewind Complexion Stick. I have the shade 9N. This product is so nice. I love stick foundations, and I think stick foundations, we're going to be seeing a ton of those already with this one that launched with the Charlotte Tilbury. I mean, it seems like that's kind of where we're going, but this is so thin and it's so easy to apply. You definitely want to use your fingers with this. It just works the best, but it blends in like 3 seconds. So I loved everything about this. In that video, I even got a lot of comments saying how nice the foundation looked, and that doesn't always happen for me. So I know that it came off on screen just how nice this looks. This is the perfect kind of product if you travel a lot, if you like to do your makeup in the car or on the go. It is just so quick and easy. They do advertise this as a foundation concealer in one. I wouldn't go that far. I think that the coverage is like a good light medium, but I don't think it's enough to use it as a foundation and a concealer. If you're wearing both, I just don't think you could build it up enough. It would look too heavy under the eyes. That's just my opinion on it. But I think about this one often, and it is one of my, if not my favorite stick foundation that I have. I should maybe do a video talking about all my stick foundations if we continue to get a ton of stick foundations out, because, you know, the Hourglass one's really nice. That one's obviously a lot different than this one. This one's not as full coverage, but it's just the perfect, it's everything that I want in a foundation. It's long wearing, it's a natural finish, it blends in super fast and easy. it just looks flawless on the skin. I think if you have normal skin, it would work really well. Oily skin, dry skin, like I think this works for all skin types. Ilia, I just want to explore more. If you have products from them or if you have tried their other foundations, I'd love to know what you think of them. I really want to try the just original foundation, but also more than that, the one, I don't know what it's called, but I think it has sunscreen in it. It's like a white bottle and it has like the colored cap that pumps. I'll pop up a photo of it, of what I'm thinking of, because I don't know the name of it. But I kind of really want to explore Ilia more as a brand. The only thing that holds me off from trying them is that they're like clean beauty, so it might not last as long and expire a little bit quicker. And with my collection, like that's just something I have to think about because I do have a large foundation collection since I like to try them so much. The Ilia though is just, it is absolute perfection as far as a foundation. Really happy that I tried it. It doesn't beat my number one though. And the reason it doesn't beat my number one is because I probably am a third through this bottle. When I say that I've been wearing this so much, I've been wearing it so much, I can't put it down. Now this one's not new, but I finally got around to testing it because everyone raves about this foundation and I have to agree. I'm talking about the Fenty Beauty. This is the Eaze Drops Blurring Skin Tint. This is in the shade 6. Like I said, I'm probably down to here. I took this on my trip to Louisiana. I was there for about 2 weeks. I took it with some other foundations and this is the one that I wore. The other foundations I didn't want to wear. This is so smoothing on the skin, so I'm wearing it today. I did not powder and it is budge proof. It doesn't move. It's very blurring. The lasting power on this while being blurring it really surprises me. This is, I would say a natural finish, leaning soft matte, but mostly like you still see kind of a glow. It's not a flat matte or anything like that. You want something that's a little bit more glowy. I would recommend wearing just like a glowy primer underneath, but I can wear whatever I want with this and it always looks good. It doesn't matter. Any kind of primer, any kind of cream, powder, whatever, like it holds the product. My complexion products stay all day and I can't get enough of this. I love the packaging. I love everything. There's nothing that I dislike about this foundation. And usually I can find at least one con with something. I have zero cons with this. Done. I could absolutely see myself using this entire thing. I found it so easy to travel with. I have a con. I found it. I have one. The only thing that I don't like about this is it only looks good if you use your fingers or a brush, and I prefer a sponge. So if you don't like using a sponge, then you have zero cons. But for me, like I just am a creature of habit. I like using a sponge. With a sponge, I find that's when it kind of looks a little patchy. Like it just, for whatever reason, doesn't go with the foundation. The sponge kind of picks it up weird. That's my only con though. Like I said, if you don't use a sponge, you don't like sponges, use zero cons. After that, like every skin type, any kind of product, that's why this is number one, because there's nothing you have to be careful about. I can just put this in my makeup bag and know I can bring anything with it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to go through and be like, okay, well, I'm going to this place. It's not going to last through the humidity. I have to make sure I bring the right powder. The powder's not going to work. I need to make sure I'm pairing it with the right primer. Like none of that. Like, okay, I need a foundation, done. It'll last through humidity. It's transfer proof. It's blurring. It makes my skin look perfect. So go buy this. Like if you've been thinking about it, if you've seen the hype from other people, like I'm here to tell you that I fell head over heels in love with this. I recently did a wear test on the Dolce & Gabbana Skin Tint. That video or that foundation is not going to be in my speed review just yet because I'm still testing it. I found those two to be very similar, just as like a segue. This one's just a little bit more hydrating and glowy on the skin, where the Dolce & Gabbana I think is more of a soft matte. So those are the differences so far that I found, but I've been really loving that one. I still reach for this though. The price point is decent. I mean, drugstore prices are going up. The Covergirl Essence one that just came out is like $22, and I want to say this is $29. So I just go get this. I'll have everything linked down below. But that's gonna just finish up my ranking here with my concealers and my foundations. I can now put these all away, use them more on a regular basis, not just for testing purposes, where I keep notes and all that good stuff. So I'm excited to just use these more naturally on an everyday basis. But let me know your thoughts down below. If you've tried any of these, if they're your holy grails, if you hated them, like I hated this Clinique foundation, I would love to hear all your thoughts. But after that, this is where I'm gonna leave you. I hope you're having a great one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.